take a moment, look at the disclaimer. This content for educational, informational, entertainment purposes only, and nothing should be taken as a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any securities at any time. We're here just to tell you how BTA analyzes the markets, how we look at the market, but nothing should be taken as a recommendation. This is Rod from BTA, and we are known as the middle traders. This is the weekly chart of the DIA. So what we're going to do now, okay, and we're going to do it relatively quickly, we're going to look at the major market index ETFs and take a look at our Bollinger Band strategy and why we didn't buy today. Okay, so really quickly, we hit the pivot. All right, so almost all of the major market indexes has closed above the pivot point today. That's a little off. The pivot is 332.07. We closed at 332.17. Okay, so we 10 cents above the pivot today. All right, so we closed above the pivot. The RSI is still a little flat, but it is nearing the 50. Okay, and we are on the stochastic starting to get above the 50 level on the stochastic. Here's the stochastic. Here's the 50 level. We have 51.27. And the MACD histogram is starting to get smaller, showing us that the downward momentum is starting to decrease. And maybe we're going to start getting some upside momentum. We need the brown line to cross above the blue line. That's called a bullish MACD crossover. We'll see when that happens a little later. Okay. So we did hit the pivot today, but we did not buy. Okay. Well, let's look at the structural chart. All right. If you look at the structural chart today of our key support and resistance levels in the trend lines, well, we got right above this weekly long-term, okay, this weekly long-term overhead resistance level at 331.35. We closed at 332.17, right? And that this weekly red line right at these fractals, okay, and some previous fractals back from last year, is at 331.35. We closed right above it today. That's great, okay, but we didn't buy, okay? So let's get to why we didn't buy, all right? So now let's look at the moving averages here, okay? Well, take a look at this. This was actually pretty good today. There was some good action on the moving averages. We can't deny that. Okay, here is the moving averages. We bounced right off the 100-week moving average right here. The 100-week moving average is right here. And with the 4-week moving average, the white line is right there. So the magenta is the 100-week. We got above this downward trend in 8-week. But look at this 13-week moving average at 335. We closed at 332. It's only $2 higher. We want to see if we're going to get rejected there. That's one, okay? We got to make sure we could get above that downward trend. The 13-week moving average, being that it's so close now, only $2. No, we're going to have to wait on that. Now, let's step down to the daily chart and see what's going on the daily chart. Well, this is the key reason, okay? One of the key reasons, but this is a major factor on why we didn't buy today on the DIA. Well, look at it. We're still trapped in this eight-day consolidation period right here. We've been moving sideways for 8 days. Well, 333.06 is the top of this sideways channel. 333.06 is the top of this sideways channel right here. Okay, so we got above the weekly, longer-term weekly resistance level at 331. Okay, we closed right on the second daily resistance level at 332, but the top of this sideways consolidation that we in, this sideways consolidation, we need to break out of that, is at 333.06. That's only $1 and change more. We got to wait and see if we're going to get out of this consolidation. We've been sitting in this consolidation for 8 days. All right, it's been moving up and down right here for 8 days. We got to see if we're going to get out of there, okay, before we pull the trigger on the DIA. So we got the 13-week moving average, okay, on the weekly chart. Well, look at this daily chart. Look at this daily chart, and we got that consolidation we just saw on the daily chart. Now look at this daily chart with our moving averages, okay? Look at the daily chart with our moving averages, right? Well, look at it. We got that 50-day moving average coming right down, right above this sideways consolidation. Granted, it's beautiful that we held above the 21-day, the yellow moving average. We got above the green moving average, which is the 9-day. And the 5-day is trending up right inside the price, and we closed above it. That's not bad, okay? And we have closed above the 5-day moving average, which is great, almost every day. Close above it, close above it, close above it. Here, here, here. Close just on it here. Close just on it here. And today we closed above that 5-day moving average, the white line. That's wonderful, okay? But this downward trend in 50-day moving average at 334. Price is at 332. That's only $2 above, okay? So we feel like we have to wait for that downward trend in 50-day moving average to resolve itself. And look at the volume, okay? The volume is still low, all right? The volume is low. Look at the volume, well below average. Okay, granted, you might say, well, you always told us when the stock is consolidating, moving sideways, and almost like a flat basin pattern, the volume would dry up. Well, that's true. So also, we know that if that's the case, well, when it breaks out of the pattern, we need high volume above average. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. All right. So if you're going to go by that, then you have to say, well, when it does break out of this sideways consolidation and jumps above this 50-day moving average, we got to see some high volume, above average volume, some heavy volume. All right. So if that's the case, I give you that. I give you that one. But let's see that volume coming in when it breaks out. Okay, so 334 is the 50-day moving average. Okay, that's the 50-day moving average. 333 is the high of our consolidation period on the DIA. So we got 333 and 334. And then we got 335 is our 13-week moving average. Well, you see it, 333, 334, 335. Overhead resistance. Well, we got to start getting through some of that before we start deciding that, hey, we want to pull the trigger. So we're going to wait. And then if you look at the on-balance volume, it's not that bad, okay? It's not that bad. I have to admit, the on-balance volume is holding up pretty well. If you look at the on-balance volume, this is the high, the peak of the on-balance volume. Here's the peak of the closing prices, the line chart of closing prices. Here's the peak, the vertical line right across. Here's the peak of the on-balance volume. Well, we held support on it. That's great. We held support. So the on-balance volume is holding support right above its peak, okay? But the volume bars is low. We're consolidating. We got the 50-day moving average at 334. We got the top of the consolidation at 333, okay? We got the 13-week moving average at 335. So we're going to wait and see if we can clear above some of that, all right, before we pull the trigger on the DIA, okay? We're going to wait till we can see if we can clear above some of that. And if you look at the weekly chart on balance volume, all right, just to look at that real quickly. And if I put a vertical line across the most recent high on the weekly chart, closing prices of weekly charts on the on-balance volume, right? I put a line across the closing high, okay, the closing highs, and I put a line across the on-balance volume on the weekly chart, right? All right, and let's expand this a little bit so we can see it. Let's zoom in. Okay, let's zoom in. So you see that? You see that? We're at the recent high on the line of closing prices, the weekly chart line of closing prices. We just broke above it a little bit. Well, look at the on-balance volume on the weekly chart. Okay, the on-balance volume is still below. The accumulation distribution line is flat right at it, and the price volume trend is flat right at it. Volume, volume, volume. Plus, we have to get above those consolidation areas and those key overhead resistance areas on the consolidation and key overhead moving averages. So we're going to wait on the DIA, see if we can break out that consolidation on volume. and get above those key moving averages. Let's look at the SPY. Okay. Once again on the SPY, let's go to the weekly chart first. Let's go to the Bollinger Bands. Okay, sorry about that. Let's go to the weekly chart first. And let's go to the Bollinger Bands. Okay. Here's our Bollinger Bands. Let's clean some of this up a little bit. All right, and let's expand this. Let's make this a little wider so we can see it. Open it up a little bit, and let's zoom in. Okay, here's the weekly chart with the Bollinger Band, and we hit the pivot once again. So for the DIA, we closed above the pivot, and we closed above the pivot here on the SPY. The pivot was 415.26. We closed at 415.74. So we just closed above the pivot on both by a couple of pennies. If you look at the relative strength line, it's flat, just like on the DIA, and it's still below 50. So the buyers and the bulls have not really taken full control of the momentum. And on the stochastic, we are closing higher and higher within the range, but we're still below 50. All right, so let's go and look at the structural chart on the weekly chart and ask, well, if it hit the pivot, well, why didn't we not buy? Okay, why did we not buy? Well, if we go to the structural chart, you see right here, okay, this is a key reason why we did not buy. If you look at this weekly chart, okay, with our structural resistance area, support resistance lines and the trend line, look at this downward trend line across the highs. Look where it's at. Okay, look at our long-term overhead resistance levels. We got 414, 418, and then we got this downward trending trend line. Okay, well, we closed at 415, so we got above the 414, but 418 is right above it. It's only $3 above. The SPY can move $6, $7, $8, $9 in a day. Okay, so I'm not saying that it's not going to break above it. It might not. But what I am saying, we are middle traders. We're going to wait until we get above this overhead resistance. I'm not trying to get caught in a push up, hit overhead resistance, and pull right back down and get rejected at this overhead resistance. We got a lot going on right here. Okay, 414 we got above, but we got 418. The next horizontal long-term weekly resistance level, 423. And then we got this downward trend line going across the highs. So we decided we're going to wait. We at least want to see it get above the 418. And if it get above the 418, it should make it above this downward trend line. Okay, and then we might could take a shot at it and use this downward trend line as our support and the 418 as a support, as we see if it could get above the 423. Well, that's an option. We'll see how this thing play out tomorrow. But let's go to the moving averages, okay? The moving averages are not that bad. It's actually was pretty decent. Look how we found support right at that 100-week moving average. That was beautiful. Found support right at the 100-week, right at the 4-week. We got above that downward trending 9-week moving average. And the 13-week moving average is actually about $9, almost $10 above the closing price today. So on the weekly moving averages, that's not that bad. But only thing we want to see on this weekly chart right now, okay, is let's see if we could get above that overhead resistance and that downward trending trend line, okay, across those highs. So we got 418 and this downward trending trend line on the SPY. Look, you can see the prices are trying to move up, but the volume bars are getting smaller and smaller. So we don't really see the volume coming in, okay? If we look at the weekly on balance volume before we go down to the daily charts to see what's going on, let's look at those weekly on balance volume and do something similar to what we did with the DIA. You see, here's the price going, the vertical line going across the highs. Here is the high on the line chart of closing prices, right? Well, let's put a horizontal line across the high on the on balance volume for the weekly chart, and you can see it, right? Prices is trying to break above its previous high on the line of closing prices, the weekly line of closing prices. But look at the on balance volume on the weekly chart. It's not there yet. As my son say, are we there yet, Daddy? No, we're not. We ain't there yet. Okay, so look, we rather wait, all right, until we see if we can get above this 418 and that downward trend line. And it'll be nice to see that on balance volume breaking out along with the price on the weekly chart. Well, let's step down to the daily chart and see what's going on, because we got some things of concern right here on the daily chart. And basically, it's this sideways consolidation that we've been in for the last 8 days. We talked about it on the DIA. We talked about it on the actual major market indexes. And now you see it on the SPY. Look at it. 8 days of sideways consolidation. Well, we need to get above this high here at 417.44. Here is the sideways consolidation. It's clear. All right, it's clear. 417.44 is where it's at. Okay, can we get above that, break above that? And when we break above that, like I said on the DIA, when we break above that, I want to see some volume coming in. Okay, I want to see some volume coming in. We got that downward trend in the 50-day moving average, but it's around 422. It's not right on top of price, but it's near it. And the good thing is that today we closed above on the SPY. We closed above the 21-day moving average, the yellow line, and we above the 9 and the 5. That's great, but we're inside of the consolidation. We're inside of the consolidation, all right? We are in the consolidation. We need to get out of this, all right? And look at the volume. It's not really coming in. If we break out of it, we got to see that volume coming in, telling us that the large boys and girls, large institutional investors are buying this thing, okay? The on-balance volume on the daily chart does not look that bad, I have to admit, all right? It is above its prior high, just like the line chart of closing prices, okay? So you see the line chart of closing prices, here's the high. Well, the line chart of closing prices found support and is going. Here's the high on the on-balance volume. Well, we're back above it. That's great. But on the weekly chart, we're not seeing that. On the longer-term weekly chart, we're not seeing it. But the daily chart is showing us right now that the on-balance volume doesn't look that bad, okay? But the volume bars is not showing up, but the on-balance volume is telling us that. So we got to say, hey, if we break out of this sideways consolidation pattern, get above 417, can we see those volume bars shooting up, getting above average, and definitely higher volume than the previous day? But on a breakout of a consolidation or a sideways pattern, you want to see on a breakout of any pattern, the best ones have some really strong volume. It's telling you that the large institutional investors are buying. So 417 breakout, 417.44 breakout on heavy volume is what we would like to see. If we do that, we should try to get above this 418 in this downward trend line. So 417 on the daily chart, 418 on the weekly chart, downward trend line, break that heavy volume. Then I guess, look, what more can I ask for? I take my shot, use the downward trend line on the weekly chart, use the 418 level on the weekly chart, monitor lowest, and see if all that holds support and see if we can move on it, all right? And of course, we should never close back below the low of any previous week, okay? The low of last week is 406. We should never close back below the low of any previous week, point blank and period. Now, all right, so let's look now at the cues. Let's stay on the weekly chart, all right? The Bollinger Band Strategy definitely hit the pivot. So you see why I didn't buy the DIA and I did not buy the SPY. We are middle traders. We rather wait. We don't want to get the first dollar. I don't care if I don't get the first $5 or maybe the first $10. I want the safest dollar, okay? That's what I'm looking for, the safest dollar. I just want to eat off the middle. So we hit the pivot. We broke the pivot today, okay? But we did not buy the cues. Here is the 50 level on the RSI. Well, we got above the 30. We didn't get to the 50. All right, it fell flat a little bit now. Here's the 50 level. The stochastic gave us our bullish crossover. It is moving up, but it's well away from the 50 level also. We need to see that get above 50, but that's not a must to buy, all right? That's not a must to buy. But what is a must buy, we're going to get to, okay? Well, the structural chart on the Qs don't look that bad, I have to admit. All right, we found support right at this long-term weekly horizontal support level at 303.50. We found support right there for the last 2 weeks. It bounced. That's wonderful. The next really weekly horizontal line we got to look at is 334. That's way up top. So that's not a problem. So we found support. That's wonderful. Well, why didn't we buy the Qs? That's the question. Why didn't we buy the Qs today? We didn't buy the DIA. We explained that. Well, the weekly chart on the moving averages don't look bad neither. Okay, so hey, Sherrod, what's going on? Why you ain't buying? What, you scared? No, I ain't scared. What the problem is, I'm going to show you. All right, here's the 9-week moving average here. We got above that. Found support at the 4-week moving average. The 13-week moving average is almost close to about $15, $16 away. So that's not the problem neither. Okay, well, what is the problem? Well, let's look at it. Here it is. This is why I'm waiting. Let's go down to the daily chart here, bingo, and see what we see. Well, I don't have to tell you. I think you see it already. I think you know it. We're playing the same old song almost, ain't we? Okay, let's zoom in. Boom. Okay, we got that sideways consolidation for almost 8 days. Here it is. We got to get above that. All right, this thing is moving sideways until it proves to me that it wants to go up. I'm not trying to buy this thing and it just goes nowhere and get rejected. Here, this is the overhead resistance. We haven't gotten above that at 311.98. Okay, all right, 311.98. Then we got this downward trending trend line coming across the internal trend line, coming across the fractals. All right, going back to early this year. All right, so we got this downward trending trend line right here going across those fractals. You see that crayon line right there. We need to get above that. But look at the high of the consolidation area is right here at 315. Here's the consolidation. 8 weeks of sideways movement, 8 days of sideways movement. 315 is it. Okay, we got to come out of this sideways consolidation on some heavy volume. All right, that's just the bottom line. I don't want to get caught in just sideways up and down movement and get chopped up. Okay, so now on the daily chart, moving averages, it doesn't look bad. We're finding support right at the 21. We bounced above the 21. We above the 9 and the 5 and the 21. That looks great. The 50-day moving average, the red line, the downward trending 50-day moving average is right above top. That's not a problem. That's at 322. That's a long way away. So we got the sideways consolidation, and we could break above that on heavy volume. We'll use the 21-day moving average and things of that nature as our possible stops. But at least we got to let this thing prove itself. Where's the volume? Where's the beef? It ain't no volume in this thing, though. Let's go to the on-balance volume. Here is the highs on the closing, the line of closing prices. Here it is. Well, look at the on-balance volume. It's right here. Look how far we haven't even broken above that. Okay, so we got to see that on-balance volume break above that, and then this accumulation distribution line can confirm it. But we need to see the on-balance volume break above it. And when we come out of that sideways channel, listen, we come out of this sideways channel, we want to see some volume coming in on them volume bars, above average volume on them volume bars. We need to see it. We got to see it. We got to have it. Okay? We got to have it. All right? Because that's going to make us feel confident that the big boys and girls are buying. The large institutional investors, the big investors are in. We need that volume on the breakout of that consolidation. All right? So that's what we're looking for. We got to see it. Let's look at the IWM real fast. It don't look bad at all. Look at this daily chart. We could just start right here on the daily chart. Look how I got above that 50-day moving average today. Beautiful. Look how it broke above that 50-day moving average. It's above the 50-day moving average. It got above that 50-day moving average. The 50-day moving average is 190. We at 190.90. Nice. Beautiful. Right? Beautiful. Okay. Well, what's the problem? Let's look at this here. Let's look at this structural chart where we came out of the sideways channel that we was in on the IWM also. You can see that. Well, what's the problem? The volume ain't the problem on the on-balance volume. The closing line, the line of closing prices is up here. It's peak. We above that. With on-balance volume, it's peak right here. And we got above that. Well, what's the problem, Sherrod? We hit the pivot on the weekly chart. Well, what's the problem? What's the problem? Why you don't want to buy? Well, let's take a look at it. Okay. Why didn't we buy today? Because we keep an eye on everything moving. And when they give us the best chance, the greatest opportunity to success, we're going to take it. Okay. Look at that 13-week moving average. Look at that 13-week moving average right overhead. Okay. The IWM right here, this 13-week moving average is right there. A 13-week moving average. The last 3 months of average 3 months, the last 3 months average of prices is right there. 192.43. Look, it's only $2. Look at this. The prices are moving up on lower and lower volume. Okay. Now, this is not as much of a sideways consolidation as the rest of them. So don't give me that. I want to see some volume on these volume bars on this weekly chart. Prices are moving up on lower and lower volume. That is not convincing. Okay. Yeah, the on-balance volume chart is showing us. The daily chart, the volume was a little bit better. Okay. But the 13-week moving average is sitting there looking you right in the face. So if you take that trade, if we were to take that trade and we get rejected right off that 13-week moving average, the 3 months average price of closing prices, the 3 months average of price, that's the 13 weeks, that's 3 months. If you take that trade and hit that 3 month average of prices, that 13-week moving average, and get rejected, okay, thinking that just because you're above this 50-day moving average, you're in the clear, then what can I say? I didn't look at everything moving. Now, look at that 50-day average of prices. The volume is slow on the daily chart. Yeah, the accumulative volume on the on-balance volume is not looking that bad. But this volume is not really coming in that great on the volume bars. But it did break out, but the volume wasn't there on the breakout. But the main thing here is this 13-week moving average. It is sitting right over your head. Why mess with that? Okay, I'm going to wait. I'm going to give away this next $2. If it go from there, the next level is up at $199, almost $200. So I got $8 cushion from there. I'd rather wait for that, lose the first 2, try to get the other 6. That's just the way I'm looking at it. All right. So now here, let's just very quickly look at the ITOT. All right. And I'm going to make it short and sweet. I didn't buy it, straight up, point blank and period. Will not buy it until, no matter what, until we don't have to go no further. Stop right here. We got the 100-week moving average right overhead. A long-term 100-week moving average. Yes, we hit the pivot. I'm not even going to go through all the volume stuff. At the end of the day, if we can't clear a 100-week moving average, yo, listen. That's a long-term weekly moving average. 100 weeks of prices right there over your head. Listen, resistance, what are you going to do? I'm waiting. If we break above that 100-week, well, at least I can try to use that 100-week long-term as some kind of support level. Prices are moving up, lower volume. We still got a couple of more days. Friday is going to be a big day. We got them inflation numbers. If things go right on Friday, you can see this volume surge. If the inflation shows that it's starting to peak. Next week, we got the Fed decision on interest rates. Look, it's a lot that could bring the volume in. It's a lot that could send this thing to the moon. But it's also a lot that can have it collapse, all right? So I'm just saying, I would rather wait and see. The 100-week moving average on the ITOT can't touch this until that 100-week moving average show me something. Now, very quickly, I've been telling you it's a cloud over our head, all right? Look at that Ichimoku cloud, okay? Go back and look at the video we did saying it's a cloud over our head. Look, this downward trend in the fast moving average, we're right at it. We're still below the cloud. We got a flat, longer term moving average. The Kijun-sen is flat, okay, on the Ichimoku cloud. Point blank and period. We don't have to go through a whole lot. The Ichimoku cloud is saying, watch out. If you look at the DIA, we're right at the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud, okay? We're right at the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud, and we're right on the shorter term yellow moving average line, all right? The future cloud is turned negative on both the ITOT we just looked at and now the DIA, saying that that's negative, okay? But it's tight, so it could just be a consolidation area. But the main thing is that we're at the bottom of the cloud, and we're just getting above this shorter term moving average, but the longer term moving average is flat. That's a strong. Anytime you get a flat Kijun-sen, that's not a good thing. A flat longer term moving average on the Ichimoku cloud is flat. All right, let's look at the SPY and see what the cloud is telling us. Bingo, right at the lower end of the cloud, right at the lower end of the cloud, right at the faster moving average. Listen, it's a lot of turbulence above. You don't want to fly your plane on that turbulence right away, do you? Okay. See that volume coming in? No. Look at that flat Kijun-sen, that flat longer term moving average on the Ichimoku cloud chart. Look, be careful. Let's look at the Qs real fast, and then I'm going to get out of here before it starts raining. This cloud look like it could be a storm or brewing, as my mother would say. Look at this faster, shorter term moving average right here. Bingo. All right, we got to get above that. Flat, shorter term, longer term moving average on the Ichimoku cloud. We're well below the cloud. The future cloud has turned negative. So the future forecast on every ETF that we looked at on the cloud, the future forecast is saying it's rainy and cloudy and stormy next week. The current weather forecast is that we got clouds over our head. My mama would say, it might be a storm brewing out there, Sherrod. Be careful. Look, be careful, everybody. Go back and look at the video we did. It's a cloud over our head. Jamie Dimon said he see a hurricane coming. I don't know. We saw some improvement today. Can we get out of the consolidation patterns? Can volume come in? Can we get above those overhead resistance levels we're talking about? Can we get above those key moving averages? We'll give away the first couple of dollars to see if it's possible. Let's see what these inflation numbers are going to do come Friday. Those inflation numbers show that inflation has not peaked. This thing could fall apart. Next week, the Fed going to give a decision on interest rates. It's a lot going on right now. It's not a whole lot of stocks above their 200-day moving average. So, look, be careful. We are. We're going to try our best to be careful. All right. See y'all on the next video. Everybody stay safe. Enjoy yourself. Talk to you later.